Let's go to the Western Cape, where SABC News reporter Abra Barbier is standing by to give us the latest. Very good afternoon to you, Abra. Just describe what's happening around you.
Well, I'm still speaking to opposition parties who are slowly making their way towards Parliament. They'll probably be doing their final preps in terms for... Well, not their final preps, rather. They're probably just going to be going to Parliament. Many of them, they go there and they get dressed and they change. And then they're going to be making their way down to City Hall, of course, where they'll be taking their seats in what is essentially Parliament's been designated as Parliament. Right now, I have Mr. Ganief Hendricks, who is the leader of the Al Jama'ah party in Parliament. Mr. Hendricks, thank you for speaking to us. Sir, your colleagues in other parties, their concerns relate to crime, the socio-economic situation in the country and the state of politics in South Africa at the moment. What in particular is at the top of the list for Al Jama'ah in terms of what you want to hear the President saying tonight?
Look, there are three matters on the top of the list, and the first one is obviously crime. And we hope to hear from the President how he's going to change the funding models for the Special Investigating Unit. Because a Special Investigating Unit, they get assignments from all government departments, but the funding model is that they must bill them after completing the assignment. Now that's unbusinesslike. Where must they get the money and the resources to do the investigation if they must wait for the money after they've submitted the report and wait another 30 days? So at the moment, these government departments owe the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, 1 billion rand. So that incapacitates them, and that's why they are a dead duck. That's why they are insolvent. They can't do their work. So although the auditor gave them, a clean audit, they just can't work. The same with the witness protection program. We're only going to get the report on the way forward after the President promised a year ago that the witnesses will be properly protected. Then the information regulator has been in office now for 2 years and has done no work. So I told them yesterday in the portfolio committee, now close it down, because they complain they've got no funding to their work. So the funding model is a big problem because then we can't combat crime. So what is the indicator of whether we are sorting out corruption? The indicator is a reduction in corruption. Now, the public protector, the acting public protector said yesterday that there is a rise in corruption cases. So that means for the last 20 years they haven't done their work, because if there are enough deterrents, people won't be corrupt. So whatever the public protector do is a waste of time. It doesn't deter people from being corrupt. So then when it comes to the moral issues, which is next on the agenda, South Africa doesn't have a marriage policy, and the President needs to come up with a marriage policy after nearly 28 years in government, so that we can restore the moral dignity, and they need to embrace the principles of Chief Albert Luthuli, which is fatherhood. But what has been happening is nearly half a dozen marriage acts. They bow to the LGBT, to gender activists, and they don't look at the country as a whole. It is as if these gender activists and LGBT people, that they're the only citizens in the country. So you have a cabal in Home Affairs and Department of Justice who are placed there. They are a very strong lobby. So the President must put his foot down and say, now this is the country's marriage policy, this is government's marriage policy. And
Sir, can I ask you to elaborate on the marriage policy?
Look, at the moment there's no marriage policy. So
what do you mean when you say marriage policy? What should it look like in your opinion?
Look, the marriage policy should lay down that every faith, every culture, every group are entitled to a valid South African marriage certificate, and government won't interfere in the ecclesiastical matters and cultural matters. They will just facilitate, number one, that there needs to be a proper marriage ceremony. The woman must be present so that we combat, kidnappings, and we combat the conventions that South Africa signed. And so the woman must be present. There must be no proxies. and then obviously witnesses and the normal pieties of the faith. So there needs to be a proper marriage ceremony well laid out, so that is a true marriage, and a marriage certificate should be issued, and then it's up to the faith or the cultural group like the Khoi or the San to look after their own marital affairs. But at the moment you find that government wants to prescribe to faiths and to religions and to culture groups in terms of the legislation that is in place, and they want to do the same with Muslims. They want to lay down how we must practice our Sharia, how we must practice our religion, and the same with the Jews and the same with the Hindus. So the Constitutional Court has now said, for example, that a Sharia marriage is a valid South African marriage. And I have prepared private members' bills. I'm appearing on Tuesday in front of the Portfolio Committee, and that will give the solution. But the President can come up with his own marriage policy, but they must embrace fatherhood. It cannot be that a woman must look after the husband, and a woman must look after his parents, and a woman must look after his children just because they earn more. So South Africa doesn't have a marriage policy, and that we expect the President to come up with a marriage policy. If he doesn't come up one, when I respond to his SONA address, then we will lay down the marriage policy that we want.
Can I just change focus quickly while I have you here?
Yeah.
In terms of coalition politics, there's a lot of talk about coalition politics as we are going into 2024 with certain polls and analysis suggesting that the ANC won't make the 50%, 50 plus 1% mark, which obviously would open the door for coalition politics. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you think that would look at national level? Do you think it would be something that is sustainable at national level?
Look, we have a scenario one. So the ANC won't be able to get 50% plus one. Even with the EFF supporting them, they won't get 50% plus one. And that's why we've been working hard for the last 2 years to bring about what we call a minority bloc. And the model is in the city of Johannesburg, where we now have Al Jamaa governing the city of Johannesburg, although we just have 3 seats in that municipality. And the reason is that the parties in the minority bloc, about 6, 7 of them, have been working together for a year or two, and that votes of the minority bloc will be needed by the African National Congress if they want to govern in 2024. So we have introduced the concept of co-governance. So that's why at the state funeral memorial service in Parliament for Free Ginwala, we indicated that 7 parties have asked us to govern the city of Johannesburg. We are not your pawns. We will govern to the best of our ability, because over the 2 years we built up the confidence, and 7 parties, including 2 major parties, have confidence that we can govern the city of Johannesburg. So going forward, the scenario that we see is that the ANC needs the EFF, and they also need the minority bloc, and then they will be able to govern. And they are showing that they are serious with the model in the city of Johannesburg.